Real quick, I want to talk about the primary causes of alcohol addiction and help you get a better understanding of your brain. 76 million people are struggling with sobriety and they don't even understand their own brain. So I'm going to tell you a few things you didn't know based on our current understandings of the brain and the research on addiction. First off, addiction is an incredibly complex issue. Alcohol, drugs, sex, food, there is no one single primary cause. There are several factors that directly contribute to the chemical cocktail that breeds alcoholic behavior. Genetic predisposition being one of the main ones that people want to contribute their alcoholism to. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Environmental influences, who and what you're surrounded by. And last but not least, psychological factors. You ever wonder why there's a difference between a happy drunk and an angry drunk? Genetics can play a significant role for anyone that's struggling with addiction. And yes, people who have a family history of addiction are more susceptible to developing one. That does not mean it's guaranteed. Before you put your hand up and go, "See, dude, I told you," it doesn't mean what you think it means. If you or someone you know is an alcoholic or is becoming an alcoholic and has a genetic predisposition, I need you to understand this. If you don't drink exactly the way an alcoholic would, you will never become an alcoholic. Regardless of your genetic predisposition, just because you choose to have alcohol in your life does not mean you are destined to be an alcoholic. People without that genetic predisposition can have a high tolerance, drink exactly the way an alcoholic would, and never develop an addiction. But if you do, that means that if you do what an alcoholic does, you are setting yourself up for alcoholism. There are millions of people with a genetic predisposition to alcoholism that drink casually every day with no problems. So if you drink now the way that I did 6 years ago when I was a high-functioning alcoholic, then there's a high probability that your environment has been causing you extreme amounts of stress and trauma. Raise your hand if you were surrounded by people who were actively abusing alcohol and substances when you were a kid. Unhealthy environments like that literally change the brain's structure and function. And that simply raises the likelihood of us all engaging in addictive behaviors. Lastly, and the most important, our psychological factors play the most significant role in all addictive behavior. This is why you'll never see a happy, healthy person self-sabotaging with a poison. Emotional pain, unresolved trauma, and underlying mental health issues make alcohol that much more delectable. Overusing that specific coping mechanism of alcohol ultimately leads to an addiction. At bare minimum, a dependency. And this brings me to my conclusion. Alcohol is not the problem. It is the symptom. Simply removing alcohol from our lives doesn't change us as a person.